Hello, this is Mesh, and welcome to this Taboo review. So this is for episode 7. As always, this will contain spoilers, so if you're not up to date, go and watch the episode, then come back to this video. So let's break this episode down to help dissect the story, point out some interesting points, and let the theories fly in the comments below. So what I'll do with this episode is I'll summarize the main story arc initially, then cover some points towards the end. So let's begin. So we start off with the funeral for Winter. As a refresher, she is the daughter of Helga who runs the brothel. Now whilst Helga assumes James killed Winter, Atticus does point out it's not confirmed. And later on in the episode we do get confirmation that James didn't actually kill Winter. But I'll expand on that shortly. So James speaks with Atticus a bit later on in the Bethlehem Hospital. That's where his mother was held when she was insane, and that is the location now that they're storing the powder. But the reason for the meeting is more about starting to prepare and plan for when Helga betrays them. So once again, proving to be very smart and very prudent, those characters. So we see James have a meeting with Mr. Chichester. And at that point we get confirmation that James was on the Cornwallis vessel. This has always been pretty obvious, but it's always good to confirm things like this. So a great scene with James and Mr. Chichester as well. One of the many awesome lines from that scene I thought was, "You believe in justice, and yet you are a rationalist? What type of rationalist man believes in justice?" There was many awesome lines from that scene. It was pretty cool. James just has so much narcissism, it's quite amusing sometimes. So James has that alternative suggestion for Mr. Chichester as well. So he wants to provide a better witness than himself to help Mr. Chichester in the court case, and that is Godfrey. So Godfrey, being the note taker, will submit his testimony and he will appear in court against Sir Stuart Strange and the East India Company, proving that Sir Stuart is guilty of being involved with the slave trade and hiding the evidence as well around the ship sinking and whatnot. So whilst all that is occurring, we see Helga inform the East India Company about James giving powder to the Americans, and hence the manhunt begins, as that is a crime against the king, treason. So Helga has betrayed James and she's taken to a safe house. At that point we see James captured and tortured. We also see James's plan underway. So we see that Godfrey is escorted to a safe location by Martinez. He's taken his testimony and he has Helga's location as well. So he's taken all that important information onto Atticus. So they really are the trump card for James in this situation. So Mr. Chichester approaches Sir Stuart Strange, advising him has another witness. Also, a few people at this point start freaking out. So we have Chumley, the chemist, Countess Musgrave, and Dumbarton, the doctor. So they all start burning the evidence around because they're aware that James has now been captured. So they're trying to cover the tracks, burning the evidence and leaving town as well by the look of it for some of them. So we see James getting tortured without capitulating and without giving any names, all whilst asking for a meeting with Sir Stuart Strange. We see a very comical back and forth with Coop and the Prince. I thought that was quite amusing. Really ponderous torture which occurs as well. Very ruthless though, very ruthless torture that James is getting. When it's Coop and the Prince Regent, it's quite amusing, but the whole scene is very dark around James's torture obviously, but I found it quite funny that it was dark, and then on the other hand it was quite amusing. It's quite a weird set of scenes. Eventually, given that the clock is ticking, it's been 12 hours, so all the Americans are probably escaping. We then see that Sir Stuart Strange is invited in, so they're going to give in to James's demands. Then we see James say, "I have a use for you." So the question is, what's going to occur next week? What is James planning? So with the information that we have this episode, this is my predictions how James is going to get out of the tower next episode. So first part would be, he's going to have to bribe or blackmail Sir Stuart Strange. And he's probably going to do that because he has Godfrey. So Godfrey is really the trump card here. So Godfrey is the note taker, and he has all the information around how Sir Stuart Strange has handled the sinking of that ship with the slaves in it. And also we have on top of that the proof of Sir Stuart Strange and the East India Company involved with the slave trade. So he is really the key here. So I think James will use Godfrey as a blackmailing component to get out of the tower. But the thorn in the side to this whole plan that I can't see a way around. Sure, he can blackmail the East India Company, but the Prince and Coop aren't going to care. In fact, they'd probably like it because on one hand they've got James, and if they can get him to be proven guilty of treason, they can take his land. And also they can get rid of Sir Stuart Strange at the same time. So there has to be a way that the East India Company makes a deal with the Prince Regent. We know that the East India has a Helga in a safe house, so the case that's against James is going to be very tricky if they lose Helga. So on one side, it's going to be tricky for them to go forward, but I don't see them giving away James so easily. There has to be something that the East India has over the Prince to get James out of the situation. And I think that's probably how they'll do it. I don't see them working away, sneaking James out. I don't think that's going to work because we have confirmed season 2 for this, so I don't think it's going to work for the story if James is constantly in hiding going forward. So yeah, I think they're going to work a deal. I just don't know how the Prince is going to buy into it. That was a good summary of the main story arc of this episode. But there is many more components I want to go over. So I'll break them down into a few more little sections and we'll go over those individually as well. Okay, so let's talk about Winter. Poor Winter. As I said, we start with her funeral. And from that point on, we get hints in both directions, saying James is guilty and then saying he's not as well. But we get a big hint later on when we see Pettifer talking to Coop and also Sir Stuart Strange is there. And they're saying, did you just get lucky with the situation that Helga betrayed James? And Pettifer kind of pipes up and says, no, it was also strategy. So immediately when he says that, I get the suggestion that they've actually influenced the situation around Helga. That the East India Company killed Winter to get Helga to spill the beans. Then we see as well, we have a bit of a side story with Lorna with this one. So she attends the funeral from afar, and she sees that small boy on the river's edge. So he ends up confiding in her that he wants Winter to forgive him. Now, he's probably just sold out maybe Winter's location and her dealings with James. And then we get a bit of confirmation later on that Lorna says that James didn't kill her, it was the East India Company. So pretty happy to hear that. Obviously it's sad about Winter, of course, but it's cool that it wasn't James, because I didn't like that, because they had a nice friendship kind of building there, and it was sad if it was him. But so that's cool. I was glad with that result. Okay, so now on to Zilpha. We didn't see a lot of Zilpha this episode. First scene with her, she was in the bathtub, and you can hear faint voices in the background, whispers. I wonder if that was the same voice that told her to kill Thorn. But we see her approach James, trying to move forward with their relationship, and finding excuses as to what happened last time they met, and James doesn't seem to want to have a bar of it at all. He gives her a diamond and says, "This is for your future of being a widow," and sends her on her way. Well, the suggestion here that she's betrayed, and what will happen? What's she gonna do now? It's quite strange as to where her character is gonna go. And let's talk about Bryce as well, because this was a big reveal that happened here, which I did mention, I think, in episode 2, that I thought he might have been the one that poisoned James's father. So we see Bryce is very full on, hiding in his room, and James eventually lures him out. And he drops some subtle hints around rats and arsenic, and Bryce has really become unhinged at this point and spills the entire thing, admitting to poisoning Horace Delaney, James's father. James has known about this for a while, it would seem, as well. Probably from the point where he had his father dug up and they did the tests to prove that he was poisoned. But he seems to have forgiven him. But the thing is, it's quite tricky because Bryce is saying that he did him a kindness, that he helped him. He put him out of his misery because he wasn't right anyway. So the thing is James just using him until the time that he's going to kill Bryce? Or has he believed that he did do him a kindness? It's quite a strange situation. Interesting point, that one, going forward. You never know, quite unpredictable characters, so that could go either way. And the last point here, so we see Robert, James's son, without a guardian because the guardian betrayed James and James cut out his tongue. And now we see Chumley dropping off Robert to live with James. So great scene there with the door slamming in Chumley's face. I thought that was really comical. And good to see a bit of a positive step for one of the characters in this story around Robert actually having a nice location to live and actually spending time with some family members. So yeah, that was an overview. As usual, very dark and an interesting episode. This one and episode 6 really took a back step for James's plans, but twists and turns around every corner. Amazing acting again by so many people in the show. It's really good. A couple of questions that I came away with from this episode. Question number 1. If James blackmails Sir Stuart, how is Sir Stuart going to appease the prince to get him to drop the charges against James? It will be a real stalemate because Sir Stuart has Helga, but that's not going to get him released. The East India Company must have something on the prince and Coop, something incriminating to get them to release James. I guess alternatively, they might be able to sneak James out, but I don't think that'll occur. I think it has to be that they use some politics here and weasel the way out of it. Okay, question number 2. What will Zilpha do now? Is she set out for revenge? Or perhaps just approaching James again might be another way. I think how she'll probably approach it, we saw how many times James approached her initially, and she just kept denying him over and over again. So maybe she's going to have the same tact towards him now. Maybe she's going to come at him again a few different angles and try and rekindle whatever they had and sort out what's going on. So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, now question number 3. Is James going to kill Brace, or has he forgiven him for what he has done? Brace really seems to love them or loved them, and he seems to have definitely gone mad and lost the plot, especially with that scene where he's kind of cleaning that bowl with Lorna. That was pretty crazy. It's a really hard call because if anything, James might just do it out of sorrow as opposed to revenge, to put Brace out of his misery, I guess you could say. Or are we to believe that James just accepts that he did do his father a kindness by killing him? It's a really hard call. Once again, these characters are so unpredictable, it could really go either way with this one. So I'll leave you with those questions. Let me know your thoughts on them. Always really keen to hear those and respond as well. So I hope you enjoyed this little recap. I hope I helped. If you missed any subtleties with the episode, please share the video and thumbs it up as well, would really help me out, and subscribe for future content from myself if you haven't already. That would be really awesome. So until next time, this is Mish, and I'll see you later.